Well, first and foremost, I want to say shalom to the listening audience, peace to the family out there. I want to give all honor and praise to the God of our ancient forefathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of Israel, the God of the world. I want to thank everyone for coming out, for attending this lecture again on this day. I know it was a hard day to come out and do such a lecture. And on top of that, for you to come out in person and show your support. So I just want you to give yourself a round of applause for coming out and showing us love, because it did take a lot to do so. We are going to proceed with the very first slide of the night. Before I go into slide number 2, the first question that I'm going to ask for some of the people in the room to help me chime in on. What is psychology? Anyone? How would we define psychology? Nothing invasive, just brief base. How would you define psychology?
Study of human behavior.
Study of human behavior. Absolutely. Psychology entails getting into the very heart or mind of a thing or a person, right? Psychology, it's of the psyche, of the mind. So wherever we talk about psychology, we're trying to understand the heart or the mind or the root of a situation, a person, or a thing. We entitled today's lecture, The Psychology of Revolution. We live in a culture today where the term revolution and revolutionary has become a part of what is known as pop culture. It's actually cool today to say I'm a revolutionary, because all you have to do is this. What's that? That's the infamous black fist. We seen that at the Olympics in the 60s, correct?
That's right.
So in the pop culture of today, if you see this online or if you see this in person, you just saw a revolutionary, right?
That's it.
No. We're here to show you today and define for you the psyche and the mind of a revolutionary. You're going to leave today, if you don't already know and understand, how a revolutionary should be thinking and what a revolution should look like and involve, and more importantly, entail. Contrary to popular opinion, revolution is not a pop culture. Yet we treat it like that, clearly. We put up RBG flags online, and we throw up that black fist, and we go and we march in the country, and then some of us go back and make videos and call black people savages. Oh, you didn't think I was going to let certain people escape today, did you? That's what I do. That's what we do. We speak truth to power, and whoever holding it and is not giving that truth, we're speaking to you. In order to formulate a successful revolution, you have to first understand what is a revolution. We're going to define all these things today. The psychology of revolution. There must first, before any act is performed, the very first revolution that is supposed to take place is a revolution of ideas or consciousness. If your consciousness reflects the same system you envisage yourself to rebel from, your revolution will never be successful. Let me say that again if you missed it. If your thought process reflects the very same system oppressing you, you can never have a successful revolution or a change or overture of power. Why? Because you are thinking as your oppressor wants you to think, which means you're thinking like a slave. And I'm going to give you some key points of what thoughts you may be embracing and adding to revolution as you see it, which is still causing you to think as a slave. For instance, if one of the very first thoughts that you have when you envisage black liberation in America is limited to your stay in America, you might possibly be still thinking from a Eurocentric lens. The ultimate goal of a liberated people is to not just liberate themselves in mind, in body, and in spirit, but we are a people with a great physical legacy as well. We are a nation of people behind enemy lines within another nation. We are a nation within a nation. But first, in order to be a nation, you must have a land. If your idea for revolution is deeply immersed in America, that is part of the problem. Am I saying to pack up and leave? No, I'm not suggesting that at this time. Why? Because when you go to other parts of the world, you may not have the freedom to do what we're doing here right now. And that is a fact. So the first part of being a revolutionary is involving and immersing yourself in revolution of your very own consciousness, which means you must first become aware of the system that is impressing you, which means you must be mindful of their tactics against you, which many of us are not. Because when the conversation arises in our communities as to Black Lives Matter, police shootings, the very first thing you hear some blacks say is, well, black people kill each other too.
Right.
Well, we know that, brother. But right now, we're addressing the fact that cops are shooting out people in the streets like we're animals, no regard for life. There's no need to state the obvious. We are aware that we kill one another in this country. But guess what? Statistically speaking, more white people kill white people in this country.
Yes,
so why even bring that up? You see, part of the problem of us not having a successful revolution is that within our own frame of thought is the narrative of the oppressor. It's the oppressor that has programmed your mind that whenever we speak about Black Lives Matter and the idea of police shooting, hunting, and killing us down the street, you give us the oppressor's narrative. Well, we kill each other too, brother. Yeah? Well, let me ask you a question, brother. We have police officers throughout this country that are shooting down our people as if our life has no value whatsoever. How do we approach rectifying that? Should we march? Should we shout? Should we sing? What should we do? Should we look at statistics, come back home and reevaluate? By the end of today's lecture, you're gonna know what you need to do. So, the very first thing that we must have, is a revolution of ideas, which means we must have a revolution of consciousness. The second thing you must be able to do in order to formulate a successful revolution is you must identify who is your enemy. Because at the end of the day, if you are revolting from something or someone, you should be able to identify that which you are revolting from, correct?
Right.
Many of our people do not understand that we are still behind what's called enemy lines. What do I mean when I say that? We can go out today and we can get fancy cars. We can get beautiful jewelry and clothing. We can take trips. We can behave freely. Or so they serve you. So that gives us the impression that what? Slavery is done away with. It gives the impression that what? We're cool now. It gives you the impression that what? We're equal. You're wrong. You could never be a free man behind enemy lines. Both physically, spiritually, and conceptually. You are behind enemy lines. No, don't tell me that, brother. I might be behind enemy lines physically because I'm still here in this country, but don't tell me that conceptually and spiritually I'm still behind enemy lines. Well, the very fact that you speak so abrasive when I mention that means that you probably are. Why? The fact that we live in this country, and when an officer takes out one of our own, we don't see that officer gone no more, means that you are still conceptually and spiritually behind enemy lines.
That's right.
What am I talking? Am I talking about asking people to go out and clap a cop? Come on now. I ain't crazy to do that on TV and stuff. But I'm asking you to become passionate for the life of your people. Because if your son, daughter, niece, nephew, mother, aunt, cousin was shot down in the street as if their life has no value, you know you're going outside of your footies to find that cop. Am I right or am I wrong? Until we treat every loss of life in our community with that same passion, you will always be conceptually and spiritually behind enemy lines. Because you're continuing to sell yourself the narrative that it's not at my doorstep. Yet. It hasn't touched my family. Yet. But guess what, family? If I get shot in that manner, it has touched your family. Or else please don't address me as brother when you see me. We have to start giving substance to the words that we speak to one another. Words are extremely powerful. Words speak things into existence. Your speech is a tool of creation. Science has caught up on that. They call it semantics. The effect that speech and sound waves has on matter. Come on. This ain't 1800s. We're in the year 2016, almost 2017. Science is confirming the divine text that caused you to tune into this lecture today. We got to wake up, people. We have to understand that we cannot behave as pop culture does with revolutionary ideas. Revolutionary ideas must be studied and implemented. And more importantly, they must be discussed behind closed doors. Don't be a YouTube revolutionary. Get on camera and grab a gun and start telling people how you plan to react to situations. Because I'm going to tell you right now, you're a fool. Have you ever seen a successful revolution demonstrated before the media? There's a reason why Jill Scott Heron said the revolution will not be what? Televised, baby. So don't believe into your leaders, your teachers, and these great supposed public speakers who you see in every march with the black fists. And then a week later, you see them behind closed doors shaking hands with these cops. And some of these dudes is taking headlocks from them. How does this work? How does this work where we don't become what we are speaking? All of us have that cliche statement. I'm real, I don't play that. Well, guess what? The realest thing you can be is what you say you are. It don't get no realer than that. We come from the era, people my age and certainly older, and I'm hoping at least a little younger, where your word is your bond. What does that mean? That's not no light statement, word is bond. I'm bound by my word. At the end of the day, your speech and that which it creates is going to define who you are to the world and yourself. And until you become what you are speaking, you will never be successful in life. Forget about a revolution. You will never be successful in life, period, until you become what you say you are, what you show the world. This is very important. We're not playing no games. I'm not that much into sports, although I could play basketball. I got a mean crossover. I'll tell you that right now if you ever want to play. But I don't know about too much of the other sports, but I know this. If this was basketball, I would say, people, we in the fourth quarter. If this was baseball, I would say, yo, we in the ninth inning, fam. We don't got no time to play games at all. We don't have time to follow leaders and their substance less.